Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally.
And this is Noemi Beres here, the co-host, who is welcoming Laura Cross on the show today. And we're just so happy to have you on the show, Laura. It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, this is the Sacred Divine, where we talk to people about spiritual transition. But today is a special day because we're going to talk about self-care, which is so essential to really the foundations of any kind of transformational process that you may be thinking about or stepping into. So, Laura, we are more than happy to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. And yes, I agree. It's essential in all parts of life, self-care and mindfulness. So I'm happy to be here.
I listened to a few interviews, what you did in the past, podcast interviews, and I'm just so happy that we connected through Steve Ramona, who's, shout out to him because he's an amazing host as well. That's how we connected. And I know that you are an Air Force veteran. And so that brings up a question. So what inspired your journey from Air Force veteran to a self-care advocate? I mean, that's a huge journey.
That is a huge journey. I always tell people I was, military blue collar worker turned entrepreneur. A lot of it had to do with the fact that I had lost my husband. Well, it's been 21 years now. I lost, or almost 21 years. I lost him December 21st of 2004 when he was 36. So laughing at lunch, he was dead by 10. Everything for me kind of came to a crashing halt. And that's when for me, I decided life was way too short to be answering to everybody else. And so that's when I started to venturing into entrepreneurship because I wanted to have control of my time and I wanted to be able to be there for my friends and family. I didn't want to have to check with a boss to say, oh, hey, do I still have time? And I mean, because within 14 months, I had been to three different hospital or four different hospitals, three funerals. I had had enough. And I was like, everybody was like, just really, you have someone else? I'm like, I like to be there for people. That's the way I've always been. I've always been the type of person that puts people first, very heartfelt person. It was a journey though, because I didn't want to lose anybody else. So I ran around trying to fix people the wrong way. And I will tell you that doesn't work well. That's where I learned that you have to take care of yourself first, and then you can truly help and be there for others.
Well, first, I want to extend my condolences. I know it's kind of 20 some years too late, but going through that grieving process is a healing process. So, if you wouldn't mind, can you, for our sake, clarify what self-care really is, and specifically, what does it mean to you?
To me, for me, it means to take that time to put yourself first and take care of yourself. Everybody looks at self-care as being selfish, and it's really not. You cannot keep pouring yourself out in a job and this and helping people. You burn out. That's where people get burnout. That's where people get stressed. And if you don't know who you truly are or who you're meant to be, and you haven't taken that time, then it's just you're going to burn yourself out for one. I mean, you just keep giving and giving and going, and you may be thinking you're doing good and feeling like you're happy, but you discover you're not truly happy because it's not. You may be doing things or being stuck in jobs or doing things that you're not truly happy with or that doesn't resonate with you.
I've
And
just before Noemi kind of steps in, I'm 55. And
Mhm.
so there was a time when um, burning the candle at both ends, which is a metaphor for kind of just doing everything, was a badge of honor back in the day. And this may have been back in the 80s and 90s. And so um, I think, and this is more of an American culture thing than I think maybe globally, but I don't know that putting yourself out there, working and, just making your career your first priority, maybe your family second, that's really taking a whole different change in the 21st century. And so having you kind of being one of the role models to say, this is really important and this is how it gets done
Mhm.
is so valuable today.
And I will tell you, I've been there. Like you said, I was military, so I was able to separate after I had met my husband. So my late husband was Air Force. I was Air Force. My father was Air Force. I'm used to that kind of life. Even my father found it shocking with my husband because we moved in PCS, permanent change of station. We moved more than, anybody else did. But I got out because it's easier. My career field was over 100% man, and it was easier to move with just one of us in. But there were many places we went, and when we were so thrilled to get back to Colorado, we were flat out told we were paid 36% under what it took to live there. That everybody thought military just has it handed to them, but we don't. And so to make ends meet, I definitely had to work a job, and I worked nights because nights paid more. So I was working compressed shifts, 7 in the morning till 7 at night, 3 days on, 4 days off, and you keep switching because it was a night differential. And even if I took another shift, I still got paid that night differential. It was an 18% night differential. And it was what we needed to make ends meet. But that kept us like two ships that passed in the night. And if I wanted to see him, you had to get up and I'd go spend lunch with him. Then I'd go back and try and catch a nap before I get up, say hi to him as he's coming home and I'm leaving for work. And so we did that. We ran like that for a long time. And like you said, it's kind of, hey, I can do this, not a problem. And you do wear it like a badge of honor, but you really don't realize the toll that it's taking on your health, on your relationships, until something, or at least for me, until something tragic happened. Because when he died and I had lost everything, all of a sudden I was not that person that I don't care how many feet of snow we had, I'd make it into work. It's like, nope, my job is not worth me risking my life on the road. I'm calling out like everybody else because I used to be that person that, and everybody's like, well, you have a truck. Why aren't you here? I don't care. I'm not coming. I had a whole new, different perspective. There's so many people that always called off. I was always that person that they knew would show up or would stay through a snowstorm. I didn't do it anymore. I didn't do it anymore. I changed. You just get a different perspective when you lose things. I would like people to get a different perspective before they have to lose anything or go through a tragedy or go through something traumatic to give them that wake up call.
And also speaking of self-care, I know we had a chat before and we talked about like how travel played an important part in your self-care and our love of travel because I love traveling and we both worked in the travel industry. So I mean that brings up also the question. So how has travel helped you heal and why is it so central to your work? Because I know the healing part of traveling because that's amazing. I've been doing that since I was a little girl. But how did it work for you?
Well, for me, and I've talked to other people too. Yes, we moved to certain places when we were in the military and we tried to see stuff. But if your spouse is like gone 3 to 4 months at a time, back at a month and out, you don't get to truly, really experience and see that. And there are so many beautiful countries and things out there. And if you have an open mind, there's just so much that you can learn and enjoy. I mean, just taking in the environment, the culture, seeing how other people live and how, because sometimes we get stuck on like monetary kind of things, it's really not that important. It's just a chance to get away and reset the experience of different places. I always tell people used to say, "Oh, I traveled plenty in the military." Not the same. It's not the same when you can travel on your own terms and you're not being told where you have to go, when you have to go, and you can just take your time and just enjoy and take in the different environments. It's better for your health. You're exposed to different, environments, so it really does help boost your immune system. It helps you escape from everything that, you kind of had to. Your mind's focused on something else. It's not caught up in on work and what I got to do, or at least hopefully. There's some people that take their work with them. I don't advise that either. But it gives you the chance to reset. And when you have that opportunity to be able to reset, you can be that much better or clearer, whether it's your business or working for a job because you're refreshed, you're not so burnt out. Maybe you have a new creative idea that launches something totally new, or if you're a business owner, maybe it takes your business in a whole different area, a whole different direction. There's lots of possibilities, but it's escaping and just being able to experience something different instead of the norm. I know some people that have never left their hometown, and that's
Yeah,
Well,
I can't imagine that. For me, it's like I
I
can't do that.
and it's unfortunate. They spend too much time watching the news about how, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. Here, this we got things going on. I'm pretty sure we don't look that impressive to some people either, but that's not all that that country or that space is about. There's still a lot you can enjoy and get to know the people. It's, yeah.
Well, I have to take that back. So I'm from Philadelphia, and when I entered the Marine Corps, of course, I moved to South Carolina and did my Paris Island boot camp, and then went to North Carolina. So I have kind of navigated some spots, and of course, I did a tour of duty in Panama in '89. Um, but as a general practice, that's going somewhere hasn't been my thing. I'm a homebody, but that's kind of changed. And so, um, for me, traveling now is going outdoors. And so I am on my own mission to through hike the Appalachian Trail. And so that's pushing me to do things that historically in my own life has been um, not something that I would do. And so I am spending a whole lot of time outdoors. I am spending a whole lot of time in state parks and in nature. And that's part of my self-care routine, but I know that's not for everybody. So in your reflection as, what is self-care and how does it work? Um, what is it? How does it work? What is it? How do we kind of step into a space where we know that that's our space and it's sacred?
You have to figure out, you have to take some time to look within yourself. Remember what brought you joy, what you feel passionate about. If you light up when you talk about something, then that is what resonates with you. Not what people think you should do or what job people think you should have. Because yeah, we could all go out and work jobs. I could go back and work a job and make ends meet. It doesn't mean I would be happy, you know. For me, it took an entire environment change. We moved from Colorado to Missouri. I thought I was doing the move for my fiance because we didn't like the way Colorado was headed, and I could see it on his face. But after we got here and the different community and the space, it just my dad even didn't even know who my dad's like, who are you? I'm like, I learned how to garden and grow, garlic. I feed the birds and I love watching the deer and the birds. I got squirrel posts. It makes me happy. I love to be able to see that. And I just, in the chaotic, crazy city type area that I was in, I didn't have the time. I didn't get to do that. And the more I started watching all of that, the more I started realizing kind of what really does light me up. A lot of people said I should be a self-care coach. I'd be a beautiful self-care coach. Sure, I can help people that understand with my journey, but it's not where I live. I love meeting people from all over the world. I love learning new and different perspectives, holistic perspectives. I love being that connector to connect people together. Um, and so it kind of just helped me launch on yet another another path. But um, like I said, you should be you should you should feel it light up inside you. I have met with people, and when they start talking about what you do, you can just see their expression, their face change, and they're doing what they're meant to do. And when you can find that, yeah, I mean that's just a whole different world. And I don't let anybody get into that space. You have to set those healthy boundaries. Not everybody may understand what I do. They may not agree with it. That's okay. We're not meant to resonate with everybody. But I keep myself surrounded with like-minded people that, support me. And if they don't, I just politely create distance because I don't have time for that. I love the space that I'm in, and that's how I can show up better for people is when I'm happy with my space and with what I'm doing.
And that brings, I'm just thinking about like while you're talking, and so your job, you're an entrepreneur. So what led you start White Sands Self-Care? I mean, it's even in the, in the title, company title. And how did it grow? If you can just tell us a little bit about that part.
So it started as White Sands Premier Travel because after I lost my husband, the very first entrepreneur thing I did was be a travel agent because I love to travel. And I got the ability to learn about all these different places. And I thought there's nothing worse than going to a place and then leaving and then saying, "Ah, I didn't know that that was there." So I loved doing the training. And my parents used to always go on a cruise through the Caribbean. And my mom told me about the white sand beaches in St. Thomas. So white sands is for the beaches in St. Thomas, not New Mexico. I get asked that too. And I just loved the name. And I've always been attracted to water and dolphins. And so when COVID came along and scared the snot out of everybody for traveling, I morphed and developed White Sand Self-Care. Travel is still a part of that. I'm still a travel agent, still part of that, but I morphed it more to self-care because I realized the reason I want people to travel is to get away, escape the rat race, to live healthier. And so then that's how White Sands, came along. I have always been attracted to dolphins, and I had that experience of swimming with a dolphin, so that had to be part of my logo. It's
That is
just
behind you, yes? That
yes,
is what we see? Okay.
that is Electra. That's Electra. She was one of the dolphins rescued from Katrina down at Atlantis in the Bahamas. And I got to do a deep water swim with her and my mom. That was an experience we got to share together. And I just dropped all of my fear because I love swimming, but yes, as silly as it is, I don't like slimy fish and I don't want slimy fish touching me. So I never used to feed him when I was a kid at SeaWorld or nothing. And my mom's like, if we're gonna do this, we do a deep water dive. I was like, I'm in, let's go. Because and they're like a soft leather coat. If you have never done that experience, I would highly recommend that for anyone. It's just a beautiful animal, but they're fun, they're intelligent, they're team players. I've just always been attracted to dolphins. And so, yeah, I keep discovering more and more along my different journeys and finding out about spiritual animals and what they mean. And so it's just been progress. And meeting all the people I get to meet across in different countries helps me to do that. So, yeah,
Well,
that's how I morphed over to where I'm at now. Sorry.
no, that's okay because the only time I spend near the water, I live in Virginia, and so I've got the Atlantic Ocean right here, and I will literally there's a certain trail I go through Back Bay Wildlife Refuge through Falls Cape, which literally takes me to North Carolina, the Outer Banks, the North Carolina Virginia border area, and so I'll hike my 10 miles out. I'll spend 30 minutes just overlooking the ocean and have lunch and then come on back. And but getting into the water is probably not my thing. I am very much a land creature, and I think I'm going to stay there. But you brought up a book, and I'm going to fumble this. I'm going to edit this out because you brought something up that I wanted to talk about, and now it totally slipped my mind. And so it was about, wow, I can't believe it totally slipped my mind. Noemi, kind of step up here. We'll edit this out.
I love swimming too. So for me is I live by the Mediterranean Sea in Cyprus. So for me, sea, sun, white sand, I just love it. And it's on my bucket list to swim with dolphins. I wrote that bucket list, I don't know, a couple of years ago, but it's definitely there. And also I know you have a podcast
Oh, that
and
was it. That was totally it. Because it's called Mindful Mondays.
It is a TV show.
there
Yes,
you go.
Okay.
Yes.
it is not a podcast. It is an online TV
Right,
show on
exactly.
E360 TV. Yes, I get called a podcast a lot. It's like, no, it's a TV show. And I will say, Noemi, I used to use that term bucket list. I refuse to use that.
Okay.
I have a live list. It is
Love
a
it.
live list. I am not looking to stick the other foot in the grave. I told people I am just getting started, so I have a live list. But no, I do. I did the self-care community and I built a self-care community page, the White Sand Self-Care Community Group. And I started out by doing interviews with people because I just think people can resonate better with you if they can hear your story, how you overcame challenges and how you help people. Everybody kept calling it a podcast. I said it's just an interview. And then I had an opportunity to do a television show and I thought, okay, cool. I could reach even more people. So it is global. It is Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I do have it on my own YouTube channel for it, but it's also on e360tv.com. I have people from all over the world, Cyprus, South Africa, Australia, Canada, UK, across the US, because I think there are so many people out there that we can learn from and get different perspectives. So for me, it's a judgment-free, holistic space, because we all perceive things differently. We have that right to do that. And I believe we're going to resonate with who it resonates with. And that's why I
So,
created that space.
and I appreciate having been given the opportunity to talk with you on your TV show. And so I do appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. I love having people, like I said, like you guys on. I mean, it's just so many different perspectives. There's so many stories to tell. And the fact that you were courageous enough to share your story and your journey, um, it's just, I think more people need to hear it. I want people to know that they're not alone. There's someone that has gone through something similar. There is someone out there that can relate to what they're going through and that they can get that support. So that's
So,
my whole reasoning for it.
so with the time that we have remaining, talk to us about some of the key insights that you've learned, maybe through conversation or through your own experience, that kind of talk about or talk to the value of self-care, whether it's through travel, spending time in nature, exercising, whatever that looks like for the individual. We need to spend more time prioritizing that rather than going back as we did decades ago, where we were burning the candle at both ends and basically, as you said earlier, burning ourselves out.
Right. So one of the things that I learned to do was to, and you can always start by a few minutes at the time. Some people just figure, well, I already have no time in the day now. But the truth is you don't have the time not to. You need to, like you said, self-care is different for everyone. For my fiance, that could be working on the race car so he can go racing. It's not always meditation. Other people, it's meditation. It's walking out in nature. It's doing what brings you that joy and what truly lights you up, where you can feel where you really want to go. You have to be able to take that look within without all the outside interferences of what someone else has an opinion about. Because really, at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is yourself. If you are happy with what you're doing and you like what you're doing, that's all. It doesn't matter. Everybody's always going to have opinions, and you can't live by them. You can't follow them and you can't live by them. So I've learned to do that. That's something else that's important. Setting those boundaries. Like I said, even if it's family, sometimes you got to politely distance, because they may not always see or understand. That's okay. They still love you. It's just a different way. But you set those boundaries and, don't take on everything. It's okay to say no. If you're one of those people pleaser type, like I used to be, you used to try to do everything. Next thing you know, you
Yeah.
are piled up and it's like, okay, shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have. It's okay to say no. It's a complete sentence and you don't need to explain to anybody. But yeah, people will come around and you will find those like-minded people when you are being authentic and true to yourself and true with what you enjoy doing. Just trying to pull it off and do something for someone else, it shows in one way or another. People will generally pick up on that and you won't truly be happy. So I say search and find what truly makes you happy, because generally there's a way you can probably monetize on it if you want, or if nothing else, it's just definitely, a better way to live. But
Well, that's the
yeah.
entrepreneur in you, yeah.
Yes, and I am the only entrepreneur in my family. I had a couple nephews that were doing well, but the old school thought came in and they got talked to, and now they have jobs working for people. So it's a tough. It depends on what generation you grew up in. But I know more of the younger generations are more looking at entrepreneurs. I'm a Gen Xer. That wasn't taught when I was growing up. And even when I went back to college about 7 years ago, I only had one teacher that talked about being an entrepreneur. The rest of them, it's all about getting a degree and go work for somebody. And I'm like, the system needs to change.
Well, you're talking to not me, not yet anyway. Noemi is the other entrepreneur in this conversation.
Yeah, since 2007. So at an early age, I would say early age because I was in my 20s. And I'm like you, Laura, I'm the only entrepreneur in the family, although we had kind of entrepreneurial spirit there, but the only entrepreneur. And I know, like just now you were saying that who was entrepreneur in your community. And I'm just thinking about my high school class and not many people. I probably like one or two, like I'm one of them. So speaking of entrepreneurs, Why is so important? Why is self-care so important for entrepreneurs? Like any tips, like tricks for us entrepreneurs? Because yeah, working remotely from the home office, you are just, one way away from your computer and your tasks, and it's so hard to find that balance. And I wouldn't find it like, I wouldn't call it a balance. I would call it harmony, because there's no balance between work and life when you're an entrepreneur. But like, any tips and tricks that you can share with us?
You do have to find that harmony. There's different types of things you can do as far as time blocking management skills. I used to, when I first started, thinking I had to answer every email, every phone call right away, show them that I'm there. And I'm like, you know what? Did you ever stop and look at how often they do that for you? And it's no different than like if you were to go to a store, they're open hours like 9 to 5. Set your hours,
Yeah.
stick to it. And when you make that calendar, I have seen people that run back to back. Now, I'm not saying I've always respect people's time. If you got a half-hour meeting, let's start there. If we need to end at 30 minutes and respect their time, absolutely. Or maybe you're having a really good conversation and you want it to go over. But some people pack their things meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Well, now you're getting locked up and in pain because you've been sitting in front of the computer for too long. You probably didn't eat. You don't take time to do this. That is not taking care of yourself. I make that mistake every now and then. Like last week, my Monday got packed in. I somehow my calendar had a snag, and I wound up with 2 recordings, 6 meetings. I was in stuff from 7:45 talking to Germany till 10 o'clock at night talking to my partner in Mauritius, the island off of South Africa, because I make exceptions because you have to when you're speaking with other people in other companies. So, but it should be an exception, not the rule. And so normally I only take so many meetings a day in this because I have things. I am the one that still cooks, cleans, does everything. But if I'm back to back with meetings and my fiance comes home, I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry, we're just winging this because, I didn't get time. It's not healthy. I mean, he goes with the flow, but it's not healthy. It's not good for your health because then you're just eating junk that you shouldn't be. And there's just a whole world. So time block, think your things through before you respond. You don't have to respond like as soon as you get it. Think through and have your answer, because sometimes if you didn't read it right and you just give this knee jerk and then it's like, oh, now you got to send an apology saying, I'm sorry, I messed that up. I didn't do this. And you get really scattered. So set those reasonable hours, and when you're done, be done and be there for your family. A lot of us do entrepreneurs so that we can have more time with our family and do stuff. But if you're working so hard to get your business off the ground that you're running yourself in the ground, you're actually taking longer to get where you need to go because you cannot possibly think clearly and get things done more succinctly. I used to say I was a multitasker. That is a lie. You cannot multitask. Your brain switches back and forth from one task to another. So sit down, do that one task, get it done, knock it out of the way, and then move on. You will find yourself going along a lot better than trying to handle 4 or 5 different things at the same time.
There is no better way to end this conversation than what you just said. When it's done, be done. But before we actually go, tell our audience where they can find you across social media, please.
You can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. YouTube, you can find me at Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. Anything with Laura Cross White Sands together, you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook.
And we'll put all that information in the show notes and the description of this video. Laura, thank you so much. Noemi, it's always a pleasure. Of course, this is another edition of The Sacred Divine, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.